I'm Idiotech, and this is Indie Spotlight, where I highlight some smaller indie titles that I think deserve your attention. Today's game is Guild of Dungeoneering. Now, this game isn't out yet, it comes out on July 14th, but I just wanted to cover it because I've been playing it a little bit, and I think it's really cool. So, I'll just jump into the game, essentially, and demonstrate its features to you. It's a little different than the way I do my reviews. This isn't a review. How I'm going to do this is just show you the game and talk about it. So, we'll start a new game because it's easier that way. I can show you the tutorial system. So, we'll jump into this one.
This is the Guild of Dungeoneering. All across the land they're cheering, oh, to be a Dungeoneer, chasing fame and glory.
Okay, so when the narrator / singer talks, I'll be quiet so you guys can hear that stuff. Yeah, so you get this little log here that's telling you a little bit of story. We'll just skip past that. And then we got our guild. And so if you don't know what this is, it's kind of a roguelike game, essentially. It's a roguelike / dungeon crawler, but it's got an interesting art style and a kind of awesome mechanical twist, which I'm really enjoying. So we'll have a barracks card here, and we'll just drop that down, and we can drop it wherever we like, and we can build a barracks.
The one that's always left behind, the solitary lump, the pawn who's fodder for the grind, the sorry little chump.
So the entire game is kind of narrated by this guy, and I find it awesome, to be honest. I think it's really, really nice touch. It stands out well. It's kind of like other games, a bit like Bastion. Not so over the top and heavy, but it's a nice addition. I think it's handled well, and it introduces various mechanics to you. So it's well done, I think. And the art style, you know, depending on who you are, but I think this is really nice, to be honest. Now, we've got our first Dungeoneer, essentially, because we built a barracks. You can rename these, but I'm not going to this time. And now we have a Dungeoneer. And you can continually expand your guild to attract new people and give buffs to your various characters as you progress, and you do that by earning gold. So you earn gold by going on an adventure, essentially. So we'll go exploring. And there's a world map, and we're just starting out with the tutorial level. So rats, we have a quest. Everyone's got to start somewhere, enter the dungeon, and then quest 2 is Rat Pack. So some of these various dungeons will have multiple quests, and so the first time you go in, you'll do the first quest, second quest, etc., etc., which I really like, actually, and it's cool, and you'll see how it all works in a second. So we'll just enter the dungeon quickly. We'll take Cam, who's just a standard sort of troop. And this is where it gets interesting. Now, they'll do this initially for you and play the cards for you, so you don't have to worry about that. I think it just takes you straight into a battle initially. Yeah, a battle against a rubber duck. And you get some rewards. So he should, or she should, sorry, attack the duck in a second. Yep, there we go. And now we enter the sort of battle portion of the game. So how this works is it's a card battle game. Essentially, each card, you have a series of cards, you draw cards from your deck, and they all do different things. And depending on the character you're taking into the dungeon, they'll have different kinds of cards. And you can also find loot that gives you new cards. So it's a simple sort of card battling game initially. So we have 1 physical damage. Every time this character here hits us for 1 physical damage, it also loses 1 life, essentially. That's how this card mechanic works. So I'm going to block that damage and allow it to do damage to itself, essentially. And that's how this should work. And there you go. You can see it lost a single heart there. Now, the next attack is 2 physical damage, and it loses 1 HP. So I'm going to let it do the 2 physical damage, and I'm going to hit it for 2 physical damage. And it should lose all 3, and then we win. There you go. Simple. Now, that's the first fight in the game, and we get some loot. And this is how the loot system works. So if I click on Cam here, it brings up Cam's various slots and stats. Now, if I pick this pigeon nest, I think that's a headpiece. It says there, yes, headpiece. So that will give me a card to add to my deck, essentially, called Rekindle, and that card will give me 1 magic damage and plus 1 HP, which is kind of good. So that's worth considering. But this card here gives me 2 useful cards and 1 card that does nothing. And then this crown gives me a block any one damage and gives me plus 1 health for any damage block. So I'm going to take the stool in this case because we have bash and repel, which I think is the most useful choice. Now this is just the tutorial. I think we only have to kill a couple of rats to complete this, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Now, the second portion is this, where in between each sort of turn, so just quickly to explain this to you, your characters, you don't have control over them. I can't decide where this character will move, and that's an important aspect of the game that you need to consider, because I can't tell it where to go. So I have to entice it by putting rats in the direction, or enemies it might want to fight in the direction where I want it to go, and I have to build out various parts of the dungeon so it can like access it, essentially. So I'm going to build this here. I'm going to put a bat in there to try and entice my adventurer to go there, and then I'm going to end my turn. And hopefully she decides to go there, and she does. And so this is important later because you'll have bosses, for example, in rooms that are hidden halfway across the map that you need to eventually get to, and you have to entice your adventurer to get there. It's a very interesting mechanic, and I've not seen it done before. So we're back into a battle. This card does 1 magic damage and heals the bat we're fighting, so that isn't particularly good. So I'm going to go for a lucky hit here and do 2 damage. And here we have 1 magic damage, 1 magic damage, and block 1 physical. So that's kind of good, actually. There's not much we can do there, so I'm just going to try and block that damage. This will block both physical and magic damage. So you may think, okay, well, it's not the most complex system in the world, but it actually gets more complex, and all the different kinds of characters you get have different kinds of cards, and the loot you get augments your decks. It honestly does have a lot of depth. It's quite interesting. So this card does 1 physical damage and is unblockable, so there's no point me attempting to block it with this card. However, I don't have another card to attack with, so I'm just going to have to. Okay. And this one, unblockable again, so I'm just going to hit it straight up for damage. And again, this is magic damage, and it heals, which is kind of unfortunate, so I'm going to block that, so I don't get down to 1 life. And I'm just going to hit for 1 damage, and hopefully that goes through. Nope, because it healed. Okay. Now this, 1 magic damage, block 1 physical. Okay, this isn't good for me. I'm actually going to die now on the tutorial, which is kind of embarrassing for this video, but whatever, we'll just do it. I can't. That isn't going to block magic damage, by the way, because it only blocks physical, and now my character's dead.
Which animal would be a dungeoneer? A cunning fox, an agile deer, or a fearsome beast for a foe's condemning? But alas, this dungeoneer's a lemming.
Yeah, so that person died, which is a bit sad, but we did get 6 gold and we did get the graveyard. So I'm going to build out the graveyard. I'm going to build it off to the left of the barracks here.
Although this guild seems very grand, a dungeoneer's life can sometimes be hard, not always going as they might have planned. They mostly end up in this graveyard.
As you get new buildings and etc., he'll explain all that to you now. So we've got another chump, so I'll just go back into the tutorial. Sorry about that. It should have initially gone well. The first 2 times I did this, it worked fine. So we'll enter the dungeon, and I won't mess up this time. Okay, so we're back in the dungeon. I wonder if it will let us play the cards. No, we're just going to repeat the tutorial. But that's fine. You guys will get to see how this works. Okay, so we'll jump into a battle. Okay, so this does 2 damage and heals, but then takes 1 of its life. So I'll do 2 damage as well, which should take 3. And it does. And then I'll just do an extra damage because it played an card, which does nothing. And then I'll win, so that fight's easy enough. Now, I've never actually lost to those rats before, which is a bit interesting. So what do we want? The fork will give us a slice, which is pretty useful. That will give us 1 physical damage and a card draw. And this will give us 1 magic damage and plus 1 HP. I might actually take this time, just to be safe. It'd be good if we could actually use that. And so you can see the skills down here that the character has, which is very useful. Okay, so now I actually get to draw the room. And the coins, and this is very important. You need to fight creatures in some cases, just like a normal roguelike game, where there'll be a boss. So if you've played Binding of Isaac, for example, you know, you need to go and clear the rooms before you fight the boss to have the best advantage. And this is very similar. You go and you fight the various monsters in the rooms, but you can also drop monsters to try and increase the amount of experience you get, the potential for loot. And that's important for when you fight the final boss, for example. Now, in this tutorial, we don't have a final boss, but you get my point. And we can also use the gold coin to try and entice them in a specific direction, which is very useful. So we can't drop that there, we can only drop that there, which is not really that helpful, but we can drop this one here. So I'll do that, and then I'll put the gold coin in the room with the monster to try and entice him to go over there. And he does. And you can see the various items, the nest is on his head now, which is, I think, a really nice touch. There's a lot of visual appeal to this that I personally really enjoy. So we have a magical fountain. I can't really convince him to go to it, unfortunately, right now, which is a bit of a shame, but I'll stick it there, and I'll maybe stick a monster in there. And these fountains give you various buffs. So that, for example, if I get that buff, it'll give me concealment for the next fight. There's a lot of mechanics in here that you might not initially expect. So we'll just jump in here and we'll fight this rat. Hopefully he goes there. Well, he will, because the gold coin's there. Okay, so he's doing 1 physical damage and will discard one of my cards if it's successful. So if I don't block this, I will lose one of these cards from my hand. So I will block it and not lose the cards, because they're both reasonably useful. I mean, they're damage cards, you know. This is unblockable, so I'll just go in with damage. That's just straight up damage. I could block it, but I have more health. Oh no, we have equal health, so I will block it, actually. Okay, so this will do 1 magic damage and restore 1 HP, which I'm going to do because I need the health. It didn't restore the HP. That's interesting. Maybe I read that incorrectly. Okay, so this is it's going to hit me. I'm going to lose a card, so I'm going to play this card, which is 2 physical damage. And I have this card left, which is 1 physical damage, so I'll just go straight in with that, and we should win. Pretty easy. So I have to defeat 3 monsters. I've defeated 2. So now we get more loot. Pigeon nest we already have. We already have a hat, and this is something you need to consider as well, because you'll replace items. So if I take the paper crown, I'm going to replace the pigeon nest, and that's just, do I want to do that? I mean, this card didn't work how I thought it was going to do, so this one will block any one damage and heal me for any damage I block, which I think is a better card, so I'll take that. And I get the gold. And so now, he'll probably just go over there and fight the rat on his own, so I don't think I need to build anything for that to happen. No, these are not really necessary, and I have to defeat 3 monsters, so I could just dump one there, and then he'll kill that one. It's faster, I guess. But this is a tutorial dungeon, so it doesn't really illustrate the point that well. Okay, so we'll jump into another battle. I maybe should have skipped the tutorial just to show you some of the more advanced features. I could actually quit out of this and show you my dungeon. I think that might work, actually. We'll do that. So I'll jump in here and just do 1 damage. This, block any damage, but it's unblockable, so I'm not going to be able to do that, so I'll just do another damage. Okay, this again is just 1 damage and unblockable, so I'll do 2 damage. And this, if it succeeds, yes, Holy Seal. So we'll try this one out just to see what it does. Block 1 any, and then, so any magic or physical damage, and then +1 HP per damage blocked. So I should get +1 life when he hits me. Yeah, and I did. Okay, so that card works the way I expected. Obviously just confused them, and we'll just go in for straight damage here, and we should win. And we should have completed the tutorial as well.
Do you have any decency, I wonder? Like the Ivory League of Explorers. Instead you pillage and plunder and rip everything asunder. You're just a reckless bunch of marauders.
Okay, so we completed that. Now I have 67 gold, go in here and expand my guild, which I will do. So these are the first sort of tiers. You've got loot, magic, and might. So for example, I could choose an apprentice. And if I click this, it'll allow me to build a library, which will encourage apprentices to join my guild, which is what I'm going to do. So I have a basic physical damage dealer, and I have mages. So I'm going to stick this over here.
A practical student who's always prudent, yet very pretentious and conscientious. Another nuisance for our amusement. I give to you an apprentice.
So yep, now we have an apprentice. So that's how that works. And then I can go exploring again. And there's quests, the second quest, which is to kill the Rat King. And then you continue on into the world. So what I'll do is I'll back out to the main menu and I'll load up my game just to see something a bit further on. So here we go. So I've got a bit more of a guild going here. I'll show you who I have actually. I have a chump, which I started with, a bruiser, a cat burglar, and an apprentice. So they all have different sort of sets of moves and skills that they can do, and it's interesting. Anyway, so we'll expand our guild so I have some money. So we could boost some of our damage by buying this talisman. Or its guidance. So it gives me +1 to first physical damage in a battle for the first 2 fights. So, you know, you can judge how useful that is for yourself. You can buy what you want. At the moment, I'm just trying to unlock all of the different types of fighters, essentially. And you can see there's sort of tiers to this. So I've unlocked the bruiser, but then I can unlock the barbarian, but I have to pay 500 gold, so that's a lot more expensive. So initially, I'm just trying to unlock the various people. So we'll unlock a mime, I think. I'm not sure what this character does. So we'll build a theater. Probably just build that over there.
Is there anything that's more soul-destroying than having to rhyme all the time? There's only one thing perhaps more annoying, and that would be an insufferable mime.
Yes. So I personally really enjoyed the sound work in this and the voice acting. The music as well in the introduction to the game is great. And I love the art style. I think the way that it draws out everything, and I think the mechanics are very interesting as well. The fact that you don't have control over your characters and you have to try and force them through the dungeon. So we'll go exploring and we'll do something a bit more advanced. So I've done the first part of this one. So let's go in and try and do the second part. Scorching Spores. Loot all of the Ember's treasure. Okay, so we'll pick... Who did I go in with last time? I went in with the cat burglar, so I'll show you that one off. Oh, sorry. I should have entered the dungeon. Okay. So the goal here is to loot these treasure chests. And you can see the levels of the various creatures. That one's level 3, this one's level 2, this one's level 2. So I want to try and encourage my Dungeoneer to go to this one last. It's cool. I really, really think this mechanic is very interesting. I haven't seen it done before. Now, we could just build a corridor straight up to this one and try and encourage our Dungeoneer to go there. But the problem is that our Dungeoneer is level 1, and I would prefer it not to be before it fights these level 2 creatures. So we have a level 1 spider card here. And I could, I think, put the level 1 spider here so that my Dungeoneer is encouraged to fight that first, and then the level 2, and then get the gold. So I'm hoping that works. I can also just drop this here to try and encourage them to go that direction. I don't need to. Now, I'm not entirely sure whether the next time I get a hand, if I don't use these cards or not, these will come back. So we'll test that here, and I'll spend one of them just to make sure I get something, but I'll keep the other one in case we get it next turn. So we'll go up here and we'll fight the spider. The music in the game is really good as well. There isn't so much of it during the tutorial, but as you go through, you get more and more interesting music. So we have a +1 magic damage and a plus HP / damage dealt. So depending on how much damage is dealt, they earn health. Pretty simple mechanic. I'm going to just do straight up damage, I think. There we go. Easy enough. And if they're successful, I discard a card. What would I be discarding? 1 physical damage unblockable and 1 physical damage quick draw. I think I'll just go double damage again. Okay, and that was quite good for us. Now this will increase the damage of my next attack, which is kind of useful. If I'd had that previously, I probably would have used it and then I would have killed them that turn, but whatever, what can you do? This I'll probably use this turn, because it's 1 damage, and I win. Easy, because it's a level 1 spider. Now I get to pick loot, and this is important because you want to gear up before you get to the end of the dungeon, and if there's a boss, it's particularly important. It's very like games like Binding of Isaac. It's just laid out very differently, and, you know, obviously has its own unique mechanics, but if you're used to roguelike mechanics, you should pretty much understand how this works. So, we don't have anything right now, so I'm going to pick something that's useful to us. Repel, I don't find too useful, especially against low-level creatures. What's this card? 1 physical damage and quick draw. Okay, not so useful. I think I'm probably going to go with the 2 fire damage, to be honest. So we'll pick that, and that will become our offhand weapon. And I also get the gold. Yeah, see, we didn't keep that card, and that's important to think. So I had 2 cards there that would have given my character money, and now they're gone. So that's something to keep in mind when you're playing this. Okay, so we really just want them to go straight up here. Now we're level 2 and fight this monster and get the chest. So I'm actually not going to play any cards this turn. We'll try and win this fight. Okay, so that's 1 magic damage and 1 physical block. So I'll do 2 physical damage. Wow, that zombie has a lot of health. What's this one? Blocks magical damage. Okay, well, I'm not doing any magical damage, so that's another 2 health. Okay, now this one will do damage to itself. So I don't have any blocks. It's going to take 1 damage. I'm going to take 1 damage, so I'm going to buff my next attack by using this. It does do 1 damage as well, that card, but it will also buff my next attack. So I'm going to do unblockable. 2 damage, that's kind of a lot. Right, well, I don't really have a choice. And there we go. And that's because I buffed the card previously, so... alright, now this cloak will give us a flame spell that does 2 damage. 2 damage, not manage. And a 1 damage and draw a card. We have this coif that does nothing. We have a club that gives us a bash and +1 magic damage plus a healing. And we have this. I think I'm going to take the club just for the heals. So you can see how this is working, right? I mean, some of you may not find this game particularly interesting, but for anyone who's interested in roguelike type mechanics and those kinds of games, I think there's a lot here. Right, cooking pot. So that's a hat. 2 magic damage, 2 physical damage, unblockable. Well, I'm taking that. That's really good. Those cards are great. Okay, so now we need to try and get our Dungeoneer down to this bit. Now, I won't play this whole thing out because the video will go on forever, but you can understand how this is working, right? So I can build a corridor. So I can try and drag out a corridor here to try and get down to this. And I can build in a room here. Now, the problem is, there's nothing really for me to do, so in order to get more experience, I could just dump another kind of character in here. So we'll put a bandito. No, we won't because that's level 3. We'll put a ghost in there. And that will encourage our character to move that way and try and fight the ghost. Oh no, it didn't. It didn't do that, actually. It didn't move all the way down. Okay. We'll put a crossroads thing in here, so now we can actually get to this character, which means I probably shouldn't have bothered putting the ghost in there. Oh, there's also a fountain, which will give us a buff. Here is unblockable attacks, gain magic damage in the next fight, so that's very useful. So if we can get that before we fight this character, that will help us a lot. I'm not actually going to use anything else and just hope that my character chooses to fight this character. Come on. This is, yeah, great. Okay. So they are going to fight them. That's great. So we'll go down here and do a battle. We've got an advantage. We have more life. And we have these buffs. So bonus treasure card. And then this one has can't be killed unless 1 HP. And Night Owl, -1 if surrounded by +5 tiles. That's interesting. These mechanics are interesting, and there's something you need to consider. So this is 1 magic damage and 1 magic defense. I'm going to go in there with 2 unblockable. This should be an easy enough fight. Just do 2 straight up damage. By the way, your character heals up to full when you win the fight. And we'll just do 1 damage and block. Oh, we won't block their damage. Okay, why didn't that work? I haven't fought a ghost before. 1 physical damage and quick draw. This will do 2 magic damage I'm going to just do 2 magic damage and hope it works. It did, thankfully. Okay, in the loot choices, what do we already have? We need something for the body, so this is body. Repel, I'd prefer not to have it, to be honest. You can also just take some gold. So I don't really like repel like this. I mean, I could just take it for the sake that I need something, but you can also just click here and take some gold, and that's what I'm going to do in this case. It may not be the right decision, we'll see. Okay, so we have a massive gem here. This is level 3. That might be worth putting down to try and encourage our character to come down here and get this buff, which is what I'm going to try and do. And is there a way for me to connect those rooms yet? Not really, so I'm not going to bother with that. Can I use this card to do it? Yes, I can connect those back up, so that's good. And I will stick this gold pouch down here to try and encourage him to go in that direction after he's won this fight. I think that should work. So you can see the strategy here. I'm not sure how long this video has actually gone for at this point, so hopefully you're still watching, but I think it's a really interesting game. It has some very unique mechanics. So we've gotten the buff, which will help us in the next fight, and let's hope that she chooses to go down here. I'll just put the massive gem there. I won't bother putting anything else down. Can we connect that room to that room yet? No, we can't. Can we connect this room to this room? No, we can't. So I'll just end the turn there. Hopefully they start a fight. And they do. Okay, so we have fountains. And this will give our hero unblockable attacks, gain +1 magic damage next fight. So that's important. So we need to remember to play our unblockable cards when we have them. This is going to do 2 magic damage to us and block 2 physical damage. That's very intense, and I don't like that. So we're just going to take 2 damage straight up, and we can't do any damage with the cards we have. So I'm going to take a buff card. And that will give us +1 damage to our next attack. Okay, so unblockable. So remember, we get +1 from the fountain, and we get +1 from that previous card, so I'm definitely going to play that here. And that did 3 damage, which is great. They're going to block 1 magic damage. And we have the buff, so we're going to get 3 damage and unblockable. So that should win us the fight. Oh, it doesn't though, because we can't kill a ghost unless they're on 1 HP. Well, they can't do 2 damage to us, but they are going to heal themselves, so we're going to have to do 2 damage to win this one. And we won it, thankfully. And now we get loot. So, again, repel, I don't want it, so I'm going to take gold. And what do we get offered here? Again, not stuff that I'm really looking for. Now, I can't speak to this game's late game stuff. I don't know what the items are you get in the late game. I haven't tried everything. This isn't a review. I'm just showing you my first impressions on the title so you guys can get a good idea of what it is before it comes out. I'm not going to take anything here either. I'm just going to take gold. Okay, so you get how this works, okay? I'm not going to play the entire game out, but you understand how this works. I think it's really interesting, and I think the art style's well done. I think it's got a lot of charm. I think the voice acting is compelling. It's just a really well-made and very well-polished game, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm probably going to play this for the rest of the night, to be honest. I just wanted to get this video out for you so you could see it before it releases. It's going to come out on July 14th, and it's going to be $15 US. And I think if you have any interest in roguelikes and dungeon crawlers, it's honestly a must-buy. So that was my indie spotlight look at the Guild of Dungeoneering. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments. If you like this new format of video I'm trying out, also let me know. Otherwise, like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.
This is the Guild of Dungeoneering, on a quest we're never fearing, oh, to be a dungeoneer, swimming in pools of gold.